Well, what do we have going on this morning? Anything? How about several Saints were back on the practice field Tuesday at Tulane, but the DNP list is still super long. Why isn't anyone talking about Alvin Kamara? Do we feel better about the offensive line now after last week's better performance in Sunday's preseason game? Well, it's time to bring in the expert. The Athletics' Larry Holder is here 2 days early. And we're going to talk Saints and their upcoming preseason finale against the Tennessee Titans. We'll wrap it up with part 6 of our 8-part series previewing the NFL division by division. Today, it's the vaunted NFC West. What are we waiting for? Well, duh. It's the Dattitude podcast, and it's coming up next.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? Hello to my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there who are trying to find that love and feeling for their favorite football team. Did you see the Saints were back home and practicing at Yulman Stadium last night? Not many of you did. Not many of you gave a damn. 8,000 fans. That's it. 8,000 fans. Can you imagine? Even 2 or 3 years ago, they easily sold out that place. Yep. Can't wait to see how many people are going to be in the stand Sunday in the Dome for this final preseason game. You know, you can yell at me. I'll be up in the press box up top. You can yell at me from across the Dome. I'll probably hear you. Kind of sad. But there's nothing but happy here today because this is Dattitude, episode number 269, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Wednesday, August the 21st, 2024. You know who I am. My name's right up there. It's down there. It's everywhere. I'm Jim Derry. Whether you're watching on one of our NOLA.com social media channels or whether you're listening on demand where you can't see my name, whatever, well, you could probably see it. It's on your car radio thing. But you know who I am. You know where you can listen. As always, I thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. Before we get to any nonsense this morning, a little programming note. There may or may not be a show on Friday morning. My wife's having a procedure done. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put it together or not. We're going to see how it goes. I may have to be at the hospital. So we'll see how that goes. 50-50 right now. So if you don't see a show on Friday, you know why. Especially the regulars, you'll know why. You know how to be a part of the show. Just type in your comment, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, like Jerry did. Good morning, Jerry. Hump day, A-Town. What is going on? You got your hump going on. Drink lots of water. It's still hot. It's cooler. We got that quote unquote cool front. Woo! Down to 93 in the afternoon. It's exciting. If you haven't already done so, we politely ask you. We're not begging. We don't need to beg anymore. We got enough people that we don't have to beg. We were begging before. Now we're just asking politely. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube page, please do so. If you're watching on Facebook, we thank you for watching on Facebook. There's nothing against watching on Facebook, but we would love to have you on our YouTube page. That way you can have little notifications when we're going on the air live, and you have access to all of our shorts, which we also put on TikTok, which I don't know what's going on, but our TikTok's like blowing up the past couple of weeks. I don't know what I said to get people excited on TikTok, but they're watching on TikTok. All of our shorts go there. So follow us on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok. You can get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email, jderry@theadvocate.com. I've had some people reach out to me about some different things this week. I'm going to get into one of them in just a minute. Some people, I'll worry about the rationale of some people out there. I don't know. Brian's here. Kamara holding in. No, he was there. The run blocking was not the issue. He says the pass blocking. Yeah, we're going to get into all that. Miller and Tajay Spears will be forever linked. Jerry doesn't like it when we talk about the past. And Jerry is, look, no offense to all. Jerry's been here longer than anyone else. I'll try not to piss Jerry off. No. A-Town, thank you for keeping the Mrs. in. It's not anything super major. It ain't fun. I'll just leave it at that, but it's nothing super major. So I got a question for everybody for the listeners. Larry's in the green room, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. And I got a couple other points. I'll bring him in for my other points. But went in to get breakfast at this little local bagel place that just opened I don't know. They opened a month ago. And I go in there a couple times a week. Is it bad when when you walk in and they start getting your order ready before you, there was a person in front of me. The lady literally grabbed the bagel that I was going to get to bring it back to the kitchen to put what I want on it. Is it bad when they start knowing what you want already? I was like, okay. Yeah, we made a little thing on Facebook about your special sandwich. That's not good. I don't think it's good. That's kind of embarrassing. The lady in front of me was looking at me who's this clown? I mean, I don't know. I guess it's good that they know me. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. She'll be fine. It's just not going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, answer that question for me, if you will. Is it a bad thing when they get to know who you are, this place? Now, there are a couple places I go into. I'll give a shout out to Mandeville Seafood. Owner Jerry is a good friend of mine now, and they all know my name there. It's wonderful. Triple Nickel down the street. Give them a shout out. It's my wife's family, so they know me. But sometimes when you walk into a place and they know you. Hakeem says they do that to him in Georgia at the Waffle House. He says, "Am I that damn?" He said, "Damn, am I that boring?" That's kind of the gist of the whole thing. I am a creature of habit. A lot of us are. So I don't know. Maybe it's not that bad. A-Town says the restaurant will have the Derry special. That's kind of what I'm afraid of. I don't want that because it's not like it's some maybe if it was a salad with boiled shrimp and whatever, it's like. I mean, look at me. It's like something fatty. Just makes me feel bad about myself. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I never feel bad about myself. All right, let's get into the show this morning. You know what? I had a couple of things I was going to say before I brought in Larry. We're talking Saints this morning. You see the line up on the left side of the screen. Does it matter? Titans are 3.5-point favorites. What does that tell you? It tells you that Saints probably aren't going to play a lot of starters. Maybe the Titans will play more. Will Levis is going to play, probably. I don't put much stock in the preseason lines, nor do I care. I'll tell you the same thing that I've been telling you for the last 2 weeks. And if you've been betting them, again, I don't advocate betting on preseason in any way, shape, or form. But if you're going to bet, the only thing I suggest to bet is the under because they hit. They hit in both Saints games, and they hit a lot, okay? Maybe you want to stay away from it in a Bears game or something where they're just trying to test out their offense and teams that are using rookies or whatever and trying to get their feet wet. Even in game 3 of preseason, you're not going to see – I don't even know if you'll see Caleb Williams for the Bears. I have no idea. I haven't looked. But no reason to touch that stuff. Under. That's the only thing I would bet in a preseason game. Anything else, you're just throwing darts against the wall. And if you want to put $5 on a dart, that's up to you. All right. Like I said, Larry's in the green room. Before we get to him real quick, let me consider Evangeline Securities. We're wrapping up the preseason, but they are getting ready for the playoffs, and they could set you up for your own personal Super Bowl. What are you talking about, Derry? Well, I'll tell you. No one in this area is better served to help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business because they first and foremost can figure out what your business is worth. Might be a decision y'all have been thinking about for quite some time. Maybe a friend, maybe a family member, maybe your mama, your daddy, whatever. If that's you or someone you know that's near and dear to your heart, have them reach out to Evangelin's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. They will schedule a complimentary evaluation, and then y'all can go from there. That's on y'all. They'll do you right. You already know Nick and Ron both grew up in New Orleans, graduated from Jesuit High School, way above the heads of Larry Holder and myself, and then went on to big-time business schools. After a decade or so in New York City, they came home to the people they love and the people who need them. They have offices, Poydras Street, and in Lafayette. More on this later in the show before we get to the predictions. But in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinsecurities.com. All right, let's get to it. Let's waste no more time. I already got another comment in there about the Saints. So let's get to it. Let's bring in our friend. It's weird. It's Wednesday. Larry's here. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of like my whole week is sped up, and I'm not sure like how to act or what to say.
That means just take off Friday. You don't have to work.
You know what? You weren't here when I was talking about it, but actually might be taking off Friday. So we'll see. It's 50-50 right now. I'm on the report. Rocky, good morning. Good morning to you, sir. Says good morning, Larry. All right, Sav, my friend Sav's got a question here. Has Lattimore been seen since he's been hurt? Sure, he's been seen. I don't know what he's doing, but he's been seen. Larry, you've been watching out for. I know you don't pay as much attention to the Saints anymore, but
no, I have not been watching out. I just assume that all of a sudden he might be miraculously healed once the regular season starts. That tends to happen to a lot of big time players.
It does,
and I'm wondering if something's going on behind the scenes. I'm always skeptical when he's been talked about a ton, just like Kamara in the offseason. What's actually going on? Is he hurt? Is he not? I don't know. But still,
I don't either.
You usually get an actual indication if he's actually hurt if we don't see him in week one. If we see him in week one, then so what if he didn't do anything?
I made a prediction in June, and I've mentioned it a couple times since, and I'm sticking to it. I predicted that either and, however you want to look at it, one of the two or two of the two, Alvin Kamara and or Marshawn Lattimore will not be on the field in week one. That was my prediction then, and I'm not going to change it now. Right now, it looks more likely it would be Lattimore, but why change it now? So we'll see if that happens or not. I had a comment I was talking about earlier before you came on, and I never got to the actual comment, but I want to get your take on this. The Dennis Allen haters are, look, Lord knows I've had plenty of negative comments to say about Dennis Allen, and for right reasons. I'm still pissed off about the way he handled the Atlanta Falcons game. You know that. Everybody knows that. I think that this team has kind of turned into a mediocre lot. I think that the offensive coordinator change could make a difference. I'm not saying it will, but maybe it'll save his job. Maybe it won't. But people go back and they forget like 3 years ago. They're like, he would just put in there, Gail Benson's doing this, and the Maluma should be fired for hiring Dennis. People forget that 3 years ago, if you go back in time, if you could find a way to transport yourself and look at comments back then, the overwhelming, I guess choice is the right word. I mean, I've always said I don't think the Saints did enough due diligence, but then again, Dennis Allen had kind of earned the right to be the head coach. And if you go back in time, I think the overwhelming choice, not just by media members, but by fans, was to have Dennis Allen as the head coach. I mean, it's easy to say he stinks and I want him going now.
It was the no-brainer choice. And
Correct.
It's like, here's the thing. A coach when he's been in the building for umpteen years with a couple of stints. I mean, he was around with Sean Payton's original staff, then comes back, and he's, his resume at that point leading up to when he was hired as a head coach with the Saints was a very good one. Like you'd be for what the Saints were doing at that point. It's not like the team was bad. So you're not making a head coach like a culture change. So why not stick with the guy who's earned respect within the building, players and front office staff. Like, so that all that makes sense. Like, just because it hasn't gone the way many people expected, or maybe some people thought he might fall on his face, and that's what it is. But it's not. Here's the thing: it's not all on Dennis Allen. I mean,
Correct.
I just finished up an interview with a former Saints player who is likely to be in the Hall of Fame very soon. I'll just put it to you that way. And they haven't been the same without said former Saints.
And he just happened to wear number 9.
He happened to wear number 9. They haven't been the same at that position since then. He told me, look, we know in the NFL you can't win without a quarterback. What has been the revolving door since? Like, if the Saints have had a viable quarterback since Drew, Dennis wouldn't be in this situation. The Saints wouldn't be in this situation. You win with the quarterback. That's just as simple as the NFL goes.
And, it's funny because it's kind of like I make jokes that every time I bring up the name Jameis Winston, the numbers of people watching it automatically just plunges. Whenever I say something that's like even kind of positive about Dennis Allen, it's the same thing. Look, the dude has plenty of negatives. I'm not taking up for him. I'm not defending last year's season for sure. I mean, one could argue about the 7-10 season a little bit because you had a revolving door at quarterback. Winston got hurt. It was a mess. And so Derek Carr comes in and last year's average or whatever. So I'm not necessarily defending Dennis Allen, but I don't think anyone knows behind the scenes. He may have wanted to make a change. Had they made this change at offensive coordinator before last season, I think that things could have been a lot different. I'm not saying they would have, but I think they would have won the division. They were literally tied for the division at the end of the season, lost the tiebreaker. They win one more game, they win the NFC South, and they go to the playoffs. What happens after that, who knows? It's probably a different feel about where this team is. But the point is, who knows if behind the scenes, that someone, Mickey Loomis, maybe someone else, and I'm not saying they did or they didn't, but they might have said, look, there's loyalty with this team. As much as anyone that they're loyal to a fault. They may have said, why don't we give Pete Carmichael one more year and see what happens with Derek Carr coming in? And maybe it wasn't Dennis Allen's choice or he relented.
I don't know the answer to that, but
it's hard for anyone to.
Yeah, and who knows if Dennis thought this and never spoke it, or if he did. Who knows? But still, I think that here's the thing. It's not like, again, it's same situation as Dennis Allen. Pete Carmichael was not bad at his job when Drew was there.
Right.
Like and the pieces to the puzzle were there. The Saints don't have the pieces to be as good as they were then. So, I think it more or less with Carmichael, you see, okay, let's give him a chance with a quarterback who we at least deem as stable, and it didn't work. The offense struggled, and so that was that. Well,
they hate him too because he's not number 9.
Exactly, and so it's. I know the coaches get the heat, and look, Pete had to be a fall guy, and I think rightfully they needed to move on from him anyway, so it's okay. Yeah. So I understand that, but still, here's the thing: if the Saints had stability at quarterback 2 years ago, they'd have been a better team. But last year. You thought you had stability, and Derek Carr just kind of is what it is. Like, he's not on a Drew Brees level. He's not a top 10 guy, but he's better than what the results were on the field. Like, so, and so I feel like Dennis should probably take more heat for not being better last year. There's more of an indictment from last year than the year before, in my eyes.
There are two comments on here.
Even though the win-loss record improved, they should have been better. They were the favorite. That was more disappointing than the other season.
No doubt about it. And I'm not saying I don't blame Dennis Allen for last year. I'm not saying it's just Clipboard Pete's fault. Again, whoever made the decision to keep him here and not make a change at offensive coordinator for last season, whether it be Allen, Mickey, or a combination of the two or more than that, it was a mistake. But regardless, there are two comments here I want to bring up. And the second one, I think, is the comment of the week so far. The first one is I completely disagree with Hakeem. I'm glad you've become at least a semi-regular. I appreciate you coming back, and I'm going to tell you why I disagree with you. Wasted 8 hours of Eric Bieniemy's time. We might have been on the upward trajectory. Allen is 24-46 as a head coach. I'm going to say this again. I don't find myself in a position of defending Dennis Allen very often, but I'm going to say this about Eric Bieniemy. If Eric Bieniemy was such a fantastic head coaching candidate, why hasn't he been hired somewhere yet? Because he's been interviewed in several places and he still hasn't gotten a head coaching job yet. I'm just saying. I thought he was going to take over the Commanders job when they brought it. Honestly, I thought that's what was going to happen. He went to the Commanders to be the OC there, and I thought it kind of like Dennis Allen, they were setting him up to be the next head coach. Didn't work out that way. So I don't necessarily think that that's the case. I don't agree with that at all. This next comment, again, I think this is the comment of the week so far because you've actually got one of my bullet points on here, and I'm just going to bring it up, and we'll jump to this bullet point. Taylor says, when we look back on the 2024 season, I think we're going to say not re-signing Andrus Peat was the biggest move, quote, / non-move of the year. How would everyone feel with Peat at left guard or right tackle right now? Actually, I think Peat would be playing left tackle, and Fuanga would be back at right tackle, and then you'd only really have to worry about left guard. So I 100% agree with that, Larry. I'll get your take on that. I don't necessarily – look, I think the Saints are the 32nd best offensive line in football right now. There's only 32 teams, by the way. And I think the gap between them and 31 is large. I think if Peat were still here, I'm not saying they would be great, but I think they'd be in the 20s somewhere, 27, 28, which would be something that I think this team could live with.
I can't believe that this is a topic. It just goes to show you how bad off the Saints offensive line is.
There's no doubt.
Who would be pining for Andrus Peat he was the fall guy anytime something went wrong with the offensive line forever, because guess what? He was the 5th best guy for so many years on that offensive line. And
but he made a big difference when he came in last year when Trevor Penning needed to be rescued. And it
shows you how bad off the offensive line
agree.
Is. I mean, because guess what? He left and he's not a starter.
No,
he's not starting. I forget where he ended up.
He's the Raiders.
Right. He's not starting there. Like he's not. So
no, but he'd be starting here.
Now he might start if Colton Miller, I think he's on PUP, but he's not depth chart wise number one on the depth chart at any spot in that offensive line. But yeah, that just goes to show you how bad off this unit is.
Well, it also goes to show you where the relationship got. And I keep bringing this up for regulars, probably get tired of hearing me say this, but all of training camp last year, when they wouldn't tell you anything about Andrus Peat, kind of like Lattimore and Kendra Miller. They're not telling you anything about those guys and where they are in their recovery. They weren't telling you anything about Andrus Peat, and one day he just kind of showed up in the field. He was ready to go, and they didn't play him. The relationship between the team and Andrus Peat had soured. Andrus Peat comes back here. He's clearly a starter. There's zero question he starts for this team, but he didn't want to stay here. And I don't know if it was a combination of the team not wanting him and him not wanting to be here. But I think
that had to be a combination of both. I mean, look, they've been with Pete long enough. I can't believe he lasted that long with the team, to be honest with you. So I mean, it was time for him to move on to something new, and I get it. And so but still, here's the thing though: you thought you drafted well enough and picked up players well enough that you'd never be in the position to need someone like him back. And that's blown up in your face, because you haven't drafted well enough for those spots. So
then you
have an injury with Ramczyk, and then you're in a heap.
Yeah, and you can't just. I mean, they should have known. I think they had to have known at the end of last season that Ramczyk was going to be a problem going into this year. They didn't address it enough. I mean, you didn't do anything. You go out and you talk about all these different things you want to get in free agency. And again, I love Willie Gay. I love Chase Young. I think they're both fantastic additions to this team. I love Cedric Wilson. But you can't they just completely ignored the offensive line except for drafting Fuanga in the first round, which if they wouldn't have done, I can't even imagine what position they'd be in right now if they didn't have him. So anyway, Hakeem, I get what you're saying. DA is an elite defensive coordinator, but as an overseer of an organization, you're asking the question. I get it. I'm not even saying I disagree with you, but hindsight's 2020. And I'm just saying that if you go back 3 years ago, I don't think there were a whole lot of people that were against DA. Rocky says if he gets canned, Kubiak's the guy. Well, you're already promoting. You're doing the same thing that the Saints did 3 years ago. They're promoting from within. I think if DA gets canned, I think Kubiak is the logical interim coach. But I think that if it happens, and it's a big if, because if they go 8-9 or 9-8 again, I'm not saying they will, but I don't think anything's going to change. That's just my opinion. We'll see. But
they would do a blanket search. I mean, for a new head coach,
correct.
You'd need a new philosophy. And I don't know why this name. I mean, I know why the name popped up in my head, but if that were to happen, I mean, they would probably re-interview someone like Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be a candidate again for head coaches, I would assume, because I don't see the Lions faltering. And so, like, again, we're talking hypotheticals everywhere, but still, they would open up the search. It's not like, hey, Kubiak's the guy. He has proven zero.
But isn't that what this show is about? Hypothetical. We hypothesize. What's the right word? Whatever. That's not a word, and I'm not smart, but I don't care. I mean, we guess and predict and whatever. That's what we do in the show. We criticize. Yeah,
but we're already talking about head coaching candidates when Dennis gets fired. Like, okay. I mean,
I'm not saying he's going to.
But
all right. Well, I mean, I'm not.
Because you don't know who the next hot candidate is. Someone's going to have a great year, and someone's going to be another hot candidate for an assistant coach. So we don't know who the candidates would actually be. That's why I'm just totally
percentage.
Right.
Give me a percentage of what is the percentage that Dennis Allen is the coach of this team on, let's say, February 1st, 2025.
So basically you're having me predict the season and where the Saints will finish.
I'll give you my prediction too. So I don't want to, I'm not putting you on an island.
This is going to be bold. And I'll say 10% chance he's still a coach.
That's lower than me.
Because I don't think the Saints make the playoffs, and I think they regress. And
Brian says hypothesize. Yeah. What? Yeah. Okay. Brian says 75%. Rocky says 40%. Hakeem's telling me Aaron Glenn. I thought he was going to get a real chance this last. Aaron Glenn, I think, is going to be. I don't think he's definitely a future head coach. I agree with you.
I do too.
And Aaron Glenn would have a good chance to get the job here because obviously he has ties to New Orleans and knows the people here. And again, loyalty to a fault. And I mean to a fault. I'm going to say, I'm trying not to base it off my prediction of where I think this season is going to be. I'm going to say it's 50-50. I just gave mine
away, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't necessarily – I think it's 50-50. Well, I think that I think 8-9, 9-8, and I'm not saying they're going to do that. I don't think it's 50-50. They go 8-9, 9-8. I'm just having this feeling, my visions of the future, and I see us talking about this again next year. I just do. I just know this team. Hakeem, as long as they stay away from.
I see us talking about a new coach and a new quarterback at this time next year.
That's a possibility. Gabe says Aaron Glenn's from Houston. I didn't know that. By the way, where is Eric Bieniemy now? For Gabe Henderson's asking. Hakeem, where's Gabe Henderson? I mean, where's Gabe Henderson? He's in the green room. Do we know where Eric Bieniemy is now? And I didn't know this until he told me.
I know he's not with the Commanders.
He's not with the Commanders.
I don't know where he is.
He's the offensive coordinator at UCLA, which means he'll be in Baton Rouge in week 5 of the football season, college football season.
Oh my! Is Chip Kelly still there?
Chip Kelly is still at UCLA. Yes. So
oh my!
There you go. That's where Bieniemy is. Look, it's too hard to predict. I mean, I think a lot's going to depend on how the first part of this season goes. We've talked about it so many times. So, and we got plenty of time, but we're 30 minutes in the show and we didn't even really get into.
Chip Kelly's not at UCLA, by the way. He's the OC at Ohio State.
Oh, okay. There he is. OC at Ohio State. Yeah, Gabe just told me. Anyway, So there you go. All right, look. The main thing I wanted to talk about this morning with the Saints is that I find it interesting. The Saints got some guys back, some important names. Kamara was back. Their first practice back in New Orleans. They did it at Yulman Stadium. I'm not going to get into again. I thought it was telling that there were only 8,000 fans there when you could have gone and seen practice for free. Look, I was at Mandeville High School once about 10 years ago covering a Saints practice when they were like surrounding the field and every seat in the bleacher. And this was at Mandeville High. There were more than 8,000 people there. So to have only 8,000 people at Yulman Stadium kind of says a lot to me, but it's good news at least that some of the names are back. Kamara, Fawanga was back at practice, and another one, a big name, and didn't get a whole lot of talk really. Juwan Johnson back at practice off the active PUP list, which you can do is if he's on an active PUP list, as long as he doesn't go into the season on the PUP list, he can play right away. So that's good news for the Saints. I'll get into the DNPs because that length is still long, but Larry, to see those names coming back and to be back on the field, they probably won't play this weekend, but it's good to see that they're back.
Fawaga for sure. I mean, we've gone over that, but yeah, I think Juwan Johnson. I mean, you need him to be a number one tight end. You need him to be a weapon within this offense, especially given the way they're using Taysom Hill now. I mean, you're probably going to see him less at tight end unless they could obviously put him there. And in Foster Moreau, he's a number 2 guy. So you need someone to be kind of a difference maker there. I'm not saying Juwan Johnson is going to be that, but he gives you a better shot than what you had. And so, and
Dallin Holker is going to make this team as well.
I honestly don't know much.
Oh, he's the undrafted free agent, the undrafted free agent from Colorado State, who's obviously made an impact. I think he's already on this team. So they're going to have 3 tight ends on this roster. So to kind of go to your point about Taysom, I think he's more and more looking like his primary position is going to be from the backfield. I bet he takes 50% of his snaps from the backfield.
Well, he's like Kyle Juszczyk, except you can actually put him at tailback. And
yeah, for sure.
Look, I'll be honest.
I don't have a problem with that.
It looks good to me.
100%. I'm not saying he gets 12 carries or 14 carries a game, but I don't have a problem with getting him 7 or 8.
Well, actually, the fun thing is, look, you could give him like a toss sweep and he runs it. You can give him a toss sweep and he throws it. Like, yeah. That's could be cool. Like this, it's an element that we really didn't see much of at all, and we've seen a lot from it. So I think it's a good addition to what you got, especially given your lack of real production at running back.
Yeah,
and look, this could only. We know Taysom Hill is not young. I mean, we're not talking about someone though who's taken hits like running backs. He's relatively fresh. Hey, we'll see.
No, I agree. Real quick, I'm going to just answer your question, A-Town, because you asked it. If Dennis Allen gets canned at the end of the season, would you bring in Bill Belichick? I think Bill Belichick is done. I don't think anyone –
I think Mickey Loomis would be quite interested in talking to him.
I don't think today's players are going to relate to him. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Answer your question is, I don't think so. But it wouldn't shock me. Larry obviously says maybe.
It would not shock me at all that they would talk to him and be interested in him. Now, I don't know if they hire him, but they have a good relationship. Like there's a reason why. How many trades over the years have happened between the Saints and the Patriots?
A few.
There is definitely a connection there, I think. And now I'm thinking back on it. It's like, would it be almost the same thing as bringing Ditka back in the fold?
Yes, it would be. The only difference is Belichick won what?
Belichick would at least work. He would at least want to work. Ditka didn't want to work.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, before there's a couple comments. I'm going to both Sav and Hakeem. I'm going to get to your comments in just a minute, but I think it's weird. You cover the NFL nationally. I listened to the Athletics preview of the NFC South the other day. Who's the guy that does the NFL, the football show? on The Athletic.
Oh, Robert Mays.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think he does a really good job, and I listen to a lot of his podcasts. They're a little long sometimes, but I do listen to most of them. He did his NFC South preview, and what they do is they go team by team. They spent like 45 minutes. It was an hour and 30-something minute podcast.
Whew.
They spent like
longer
45
than the ones you and me do.
Exactly. They spent 45 minutes on the Falcons. They spent like 25 minutes on the Bucks. And then they spent like, I don't know, 10 or 12 minutes on the Saints and Panthers each. But they talk about blue chippers and who would you say is a blue. They basically say the Saints are the most insignificant team. Not basically, they said that. The Saints are the most insignificant team in the NFL. But beyond that, what I found interesting, and it's not just them, it's a lot of other pods or stories I read. No one's even talking about Alvin Kamara, and I don't understand. Look, I'm kind of down, and I don't think Alvin Kamara is going to have an Alvin Kamara-like season, but he's still obviously a significant piece of this team. Why is no one talking about Alvin Kamara right now?
Because he's coming off of his worst season, and he's an overpaid running back for his production. I mean,
But still, why wouldn't you even talk about it? I mean, he's clearly going to be a part of this offense, and I think that this offense suits him much better than Pete Carmichael's offense did.
I just look at it in the sense that the Saints are just in a lot of spots. They're just blah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
I'm sorry to say that, but that's what it is. I mean, that's where you are, and that's what the Saints front office has to look at if this season if it goes same course, it's just blah. Like that's the perception. Like when you're not even being talked about.
Yeah.
Like for either good or bad, you're just
not even hardly in an NFC South preview.
You're just like floating around in the middle. I mean, it's like you're just there. Like it's not good.
And trying to keep with the theme of being preseason positive, going to keep it positive, brother, as best as we can. I think there's one team every year that there's of the 7 or 8 just teams that no one gives a rat's ass about. One of them is going to be way above expectations. I'm not saying it's going to be the Saints, but I'll go back to my comment that I made on the guy who just poo-pooed all over Dennis Allen and the Saints on TikTok. What were they saying about the Houston Texans last year? I guess the difference is they had a brand new coach and a new quarterback, and there was a little bit more hope, which is not the same thing as here. But who would you rather be right now? Would you rather be the Saints or the Giants?
Oh gosh,
you'd rather be the Saints. Would you rather be the Saints or the Raiders? I'd rather be the Saints.
In the immediacy, yes. You'd rather
be the Saints or the Broncos? I'd rather be the Saints.
I don't know about that.
I know you're a Bo Nix lover.
I'm a Bo Nix, Sean Payton. I like what that is. But the thing is,
there are about 6.
The Saints have a chance to win the division. They have a chance to get to the playoffs. Like
for sure.
There's a difference there. So it's
absolutely.
Like, yeah, it's different than in like the Giants. I mean, they're terrible. Like the Patriots. So what if they have Drake May?
Would you rather be the Saints or the Patriots? They're terrible. They're not going to be good anytime soon.
There's definitely a difference there. Like you have, like if you were a fan and you're going to the Dome, you're at least going, especially say the first half of the season, there's hope that you can win a division because like you're not a bad team.
Would you rather be the Saints or the Titans?
Right. You'd rather be the Saints.
Would you rather be the Saints or the Cardinals?
You'd rather be the Saints.
Exactly. I mean, so there's plenty of, no, Gabe, no way. The Cardinals are awful. And I'm spoiler alert, we're doing the NFC West today. The Cardinals are awful. The Saints have the worst offensive line in football. The Cardinals have the worst defense in the NFL, and it's not kind of close. Okay. And they're in a division with teams that can score lots of points. They're going to go 0-6 in the NFC West. That's not even counting the right. So spoiler alert, we're going to get to that in a minute. Real quick, I talked about the DNPs because the list is long. It is still long, even though we're happy that several Saints came back. Oh, also Pete Werner came back. That's more good news. Who else came back? I don't know. I've lost track of who else came back, but several came back. That's good news. The bad news is here's your DNPs from Tuesday. And again, you're talking about you're still 2.5 weeks from the start of the regular season, so we're not getting super worried yet. But Rashid Shaheed, out, toe, foot. Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, duh. Kendra Miller, forget about Kendra Miller. He is at best for Kendra Miller at this point, he's on IR. At worst, he's getting cut. He's finished, and at least now. Kool-Aid, although the word is cool, and you see the note there, Kool-Aid is supposed to be back. Rico Payton, who's having a solid camp. He wasn't practicing yesterday. He's out with a shoulder injury. Isaiah Stallbird still hurt from 2 games ago. Jalen Ford trying to get on, make the team as a special teamer. He's going to be in a practice squad. Linebacker, Monty Rice. Okay. Guard, Nick Saldiveri still. I mean, this dude's trying to make the team. He's still hurt with a calf injury. Trajan Jeffcoat, Mason Tipton, Dallin Holker didn't practice, Kevin Rader, and Chase Young for personal reasons, so that's not a big deal. But that list is still super long. And when do you start getting worried that you have a list that long?
I'm not worried. There's a bunch of guys that if they're playing, you're in trouble. Like not so what?
Marshawn Lattimore, Kendra Miller,
you're still not in bad shape. Like, you're still not. Well,
Saldiveri,
whatever. No, a lot of those guys, I anticipate they'll be ready to play week 1. Like you don't risk it now. Like that's to me again. I'm really not an overreactor when it comes to this, unless it's like a broken bone, a torn ligament, like something's torn, like pull. If they're hurt, who cares if they're It's like Allen Iverson, practice, whatever. Who cares? I mean, it doesn't matter. Yeah, none of this matters for a lot of these players. Like if you're talking like Chase Young is really hurt, or Fuaga is like really hurt, then you're in a heap. I mean, but
Larry says, "Don't worry."
I'm not worried about that. No, I'm not.
Larry says, "Don't worry." Sav says he take Jordan Mims over Kendra. There's no doubt. I mean, Jordan Mims is going to be on this team before Kendra Miller. If they can only pick one and they have to cut one, Kendra Miller is getting cut. That's not even a question. Hakeem says, "Word if Olave goes down, who steps up at number 2?" Shaheed is absolutely a number 2. I mean, I think at least by the quote, and I'm not considering myself one of these, but quote unquote experts, I think there's a lot of people who like Shaheed at number 2. In fact, that NFC South podcast I was telling you where the Saints are insignificant, the bright spots that they talk about is both of the guys that were doing the preview both love Olave and Shaheed. So the question is, will they have time to throw it to Olave and Shaheed?
Or can the quarterback sufficiently get them the ball enough?
That's
the thing.
right. He's got to have time.
Can they be good? Yeah, yes. But it's. I mean, I'm like beating the drum. I can't if you have viable quarterback play, these guys will be good. You need viable quarterback play. You could have a good defense. We've seen that's the thing. Like it's to me, if Carr is just average, then this team is average to below average because the defense isn't great. It's good. It's not great.
Yeah.
And so but that's also contingent on
I think it's
offensive line good enough to help to make Carr.
I think their defense is better than just. I'm not saying they're great, but they're somewhere between good and great. That makes sense.
That's fine. I'm okay.
They
need Chase Young to be very good to great, and
I think he has a good chance to do that. And look,
I agree.
I don't know. Let's save some of it for the Saints preview, and that's coming up 2 weeks from today. As a matter of fact, the NFC South.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true.
No big deal.
That's true. All right. I want to move on, but there's 2 quick things I want to ask you first, just in 30 seconds or so. Is there anybody you think that needs to have a solid game on Sunday? We know the starters, most of the starters aren't going to play. I think we'll see some of the offensive linemen play and maybe a couple defensive linemen. I think you'll see Brissett a little bit. But is there anyone that you want to see? And Hakeem talks about Howden, and he has had a rough camp and a rough preseason. Is anybody or any couple players that you want to see Sunday in there and still have something to prove? Starter wise.
The kickers.
Yeah.
Both
that was kind of leads into one of my other questions that I never
asked. I mean, because nobody, if you're playing this final game, you're on the bubble and you might not be playing week 1 anyway. So it's the kickers, because guess what? It goes back to my point. If this offense isn't good enough and you're settling for field goals, you better at least make sure you make the field goals.
Yeah.
So the fact that this is kind of a competition, so I
the
want to
more
see
Charlie Smith. Yeah. And I want to look, I've been rooting for Charlie Smith, and he kicked a 65-yarder last night at Yeoman, got most of the duties. I actually think, and I know some people disagree with me, I think a lot of people, I think I'm leaning towards, I think he's going to get the job, because look, Groupie does nothing for me. I'm glad he made a nice long kick against the Niners, but and I know Smith has started off inconsistent from inside of 50. He's kicking the long ones. But look, I think if they're tied, what and what, I think you give it to the guy kicking 65 yards. Not that you're going to kick those a whole lot, but I'd rather see a young a kicker with upside, and I don't know how much upside it gives you. Hakeem says he wants to see Penning, A.T. Perry, both backup quarterbacks, and the kickers. Couldn't agree more. There you go. We found something to agree on. I agree wholeheartedly on all of those. So there you go. And then lastly, kind of before we move on, quarterback 2 battle. Is this interesting to you at all? I thought both backup quarterbacks I thought played awfully this past weekend. And that being said, I thought Rattler was worse than Haener. Again, I've said this before. I think it was Haener's to lose, and I don't think he's done anything to lose it yet. Do you agree with me?
I don't really have a good feel of if I prefer one or the other. I just know that if either one of them have to play, the season,
you're in trouble.
The season's over.
I said that Monday.
That's the thing.
That we know.
Yes, the season is over. So it's not like the backup to Jameis is Andy Dalton. I mean, Dalton at least give you a chance to win.
Right.
These guys don't give you a chance to win right now. They don't. So,
and anyone who's listened to this podcast for a long time knows what I think about Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton is a huge step up on. Well, maybe not today because he's done and I think he's out of the league. But whatever. Even if he's not, he's a huge step up over either one of these two guys. But so that's saying something. Hakeem says, bring in Ryan Tannehill. They might. They had to. I'll say this again. If Derek Carr goes down in a game and it looks like he's going to be out for an extended period of time,
I'd way rather have Tannehill than
I don't think
guys.
I don't think there's any chance it's Haener or Rattler for an extended period of time. I think they would bring in a veteran. There'll be someone on the streets.
Especially if the Saints are, say, 4-3 or in the mix.
Absolutely.
I would bring in Tannehill without even blinking.
I mean, they brought Joe Flacco. The Browns brought Joe Flacco in off the street last year. That worked for them. Joe Flacco, and Gabe's talking about Joe Flacco. He's playing for the Colts? I think he plays for the Colts now. Yeah. All right, let's move on. We are way deep into this show, and we haven't even done our predictions. So we'll try to get through our predictions quicker than we usually do. Well, previews and predictions. Anyway, and we start off the NFC West with taking a look back to how I did last year. Some weeks I look great and say, man, this dude knows what he's talking about. Some weeks I kind of embarrassed myself. Last week was almost picture perfect. This week, the good news is I got the teams in the right order, the exact right order, but I didn't necessarily get the records right. I thought these teams would be not quite as good as they were. They ended up being a little bit better. I don't know. You can be. What kind of grade would you give this, Larry? I got them in the right order, but the records were bad.
The right order, man. Come on, at least a B. At least a B. Come on, you got to give yourself a little bit of credit. Yeah, I'm a little surprised that the Rams actually played as well last year, and that's because Matt Stafford played well. I mean, he did. And then you find Puka Nacua. I mean, he's a revelation. As we get into it, I mean, obviously they have a gigantic void on their defense. So that's, it might be tougher for them to replicate that record.
All right. Well, we'll talk about it and then we'll give you our predictions at the end. We might have a surprise in there. Maybe. We'll see.
I don't remember my pick prediction. So it's all of it's a surprise to me.
Well, here's not a surprise. The Arizona Cardinals weren't good last year. I got that record right on the nose. We'll see if I can do it again. And And look, Kyler Murray has been banged up on and off, and they have a decent running game. They have nothing else. I mean, they literally have Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay, big deal. But I mean, their defense by PFF rankings. Okay, and I know you guys at the Athletic sometimes use them, talk about them, look at them, whatever. Their defensive line is ranked 32nd. Their linebackers are ranked 32nd. Their defensive backs are ranked 32nd. This defense is bad.
I did my my pass rush story a bunch of weeks ago, and I looked at the roster and I said, what is this? Like, what is this? I mean, Dennis Gardeck is their top pass rusher. I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. And he actually, his pressure percentage is super high. It was one of the best in the NFL last year. But what? Like, what is this? I mean, I don't know. I was surprised the defensive back at all with that.
I was surprised the defensive backfield was last because they do have Sean Murphy Bunting and Budda Baker. And I know those guys a little older, but I mean, but you know, I guess you're splitting hairs, but I mean, the fact that they were 13th against the pass, but I guess the only thing they really have going for him is I really like Jonathan Gannon, and he's a defensive-minded coach, and he could be good eventually, but this team has so many things to upgrade. So when I say, would you rather be the Saints or the Cardinals, I'd much rather be the Saints because I don't know how this is going to get better, and certainly not this year.
It's not going to get better this year. And it's a job that, I mean, I know there are 32 NFL jobs, but man, that's I don't know how much they're paying Gannon, but hopefully it's a lot. Like I hope it's a ton because this is not look, ownership has always been bad there.
Yeah.
And what there is actually attractive.
Not much.
I don't see much of anything. Maybe Kyler Murray plays better this year. He's coming back for a full season after, you know, his he only played a handful of games last year late in the season when the season was what it was. I mean, all right, Josh Dobbs, hooray. I mean, so what? Okay. And then, you know, and now he's, I don't know, what doesn't matter. But still, this is just a team that you think the Saints are blah. Geez, this team is, I'm looking at it. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's
what
pretty
is this?
bad.
What is the redeeming quality here? I don't know.
Real quick, not that this has to do with the Cardinals, but I'm just going to show this. Mark Satanovich says Spencer Rattler reminds him of his favorite 80s hairband Rat. I will say this. We're not going to talk about Spencer Rattler anymore because we'd be going round and round. You see what I did there? You see what I did there?
Get out.
All right. Never mind. All right. The Cardinals real quick.
Get it.
Okay. Some people got it. Some people didn't. Anyway, real quick, if you're listening to the podcast after the numbers on the screen, the rankings, they were 26th in passing last year, 4th in rushing, and they do have James Conner. They draft Trey Benson in the 3rd round. He had a big knee injury at Oregon. We'll see if he can come back. 19th overall offensively. I don't see that changing all that much. They were 32nd against the run last year, 25th overall. I think that actually gets worse. You can't get worse than the Russian defense, but I think you'll see them as the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL. Their over-under win total is 7. That is so super high.
That feels really high.
I mean, I think you want to talk about values. You might be getting a value in that under division title. Forget about it. Plus 1,300. They're plus 10,000, by the way, which is the same number as the Saints to win the Super Bowl. If you put 10 cents on it, I tell you what, come to my house, give me 10 cents, and I'll give you a piece of gum. Let's look at their schedule real quick. Want to move on. This schedule screams 1-8 or 1-9, whatever it is, before their bye week at Bills. Then they get 3 games in a row at home, but they're against the Rams, the Lions. Maybe they'll beat the Commanders. Then they go to the 49ers, go to the Packers, host the Chargers, at the Dolphins, Bears, and Jets. Oh, my goodness. That is a lot of trouble.
I seriously, I don't remember what I've made that.
You'll find out in a minute.
I don't remember what my record is. But
spoiler alert, we picked the same record. I'm just going to tell you that.
I seriously can only see on that schedule feel good about 1 win.
I don't even know if I feel good about the Commanders because I think they're going to be okay.
That's not it. I think the Commanders could beat them.
Chargers?
The Patriots.
Oh, you're talking about the whole season. Yeah.
The whole season. like the whole season.
Yeah, if you look, what games are they going to be favored in? They'll probably be favored slightly against the Commanders, and I don't have that in front of me, and Gabe can look it up if he has time. But Commanders, they probably be slight favorites. Other than that, Patriots, maybe a slight favorite. I don't know. They'll probably only be favored in 2 or 3 games. That's really bad. That's not.
They might go 1-16.
It's bad. All right, let's move on to a team that is a big question mark. It's an interesting team. They were surprised last year. The surprise was the Los Angeles Rams finished 10-7. They finished second in the NFC West and lost by a whisker to a Detroit Lions team that ended up going to the NFC Championship game, who also lost by a whisker from just missing the Super Bowl. So what do we think about this Sean McVay team as he contemplated retirement a couple years ago, and now he brought the Rams back from the dead? They were 7th in the NFL in offense and yards per game, but that defense that they've been known so highly for took a step back, and I'm not sure that they're any better this year. In fact, they don't have Aaron Donald, so they're certainly not as good. Probably
Aaron Donald is the kicker here. I mean, can they replicate? You can't replicate him. Like there's maybe 2 players in the NFL maybe that can live up to that hype in the interior. Maybe 1, and probably it's like Chris Jones. Like that's probably the only guy I can think of off the top of my head that could maybe stand toe to toe with Aaron Donald.
right.
But like I do think offensively, their offensive line, they've made some changes there. So I'm curious to see how that holds up, especially with Stafford. I mean, he's not mobile. You need him upright. So that to me is going to be probably the question mark offensively. Like I think Blake Corum.
I like Blake Corum.
I think he could be really good in the NFL, but you have Kyron Williams there. So I mean, I'm wondering if Williams, how much they taper off of him, because he had a really good year last year, as I'm sure a lot of fantasy football players know. But to me, it's the defense. I mean, they went first and second round drafting up front, so I think they know that they needed to address that. Like their secondary could be solid if Tre'Davious White can come back and be healthy.
That's a great get.
That could be a great pickup. So it's not like, I think it'll be tough to replicate what they did last year, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, because say if you have Cooper Kupp the entire year and you pair him up with Nacua, but if he is, I mean, if Kupp is your number 2, I mean, you're in really, really good shape.
Yeah, and I think, look, even guys like, I thought Tutu Atwell at times last year, he kind of disappeared towards the end of the season, but I thought he kind of was a surprise for a little while when Kupp was hurt.
I like DeMarcus Robinson. I think
exactly. And can Kyron Williams stay healthy, and can he even kind of replicate what he did last year? I love this offense. You re-sign Kevin Dotson for a pretty big contract at right guard.
Dotson's a stud. That's a good move for sure.
I like their offensive line. I really do. So I'm high. I actually think their offense can be better than it was last year, and that's saying something. The question is, if the defense can hang where they were last year, they were 20th. If they can stay around 20th or maybe a little bit better, I think this team could be good. Real quick, their odds over under win total 9, plus 330 to win the division. If you're listening, you can't see the screen. Conference title plus 1,500, Super Bowl plus 3,000. That's an interesting number, by the way. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but that is an interesting number. I'll talk more about it in a minute, because this schedule is interesting. They start off with 3 out of their first 4 on the road, which is tough. And, at Lions, we all know how tough that's going to be. That is on Sunday Night Football, I believe. And then they're at the Cardinals. They host the 49ers, at the Bears, and play the Packers. So that's a tough start before their bye week. But then things open up for them a little bit. And I really like this schedule after the bye week. Home for the Raiders, home for the Vikings, at the Seahawks, home for the Dolphins, at the Patriots. So 5 very winnable games there. And then, besides Eagles and Bills and 49ers, I mean, I don't know. This schedule's interesting to me. I think it kind of favors them a little bit.
Yeah. It's not like they couldn't go out and say, beat a really good team. Like they could beat the Lions. I mean, they could beat the Packers.
They could.
They could beat the 49ers if they have a rough day. I think that they're certainly in the mix, like the playoff mix. You need to have those kind of young players on defense for them to play up to kind of the level. They had some really good young defensive players last year, kind of elevate and play well. And so you added 2 more people. And so they could, like, potentially they could be really good, but they'd have to get really good real quick.
Yeah.
I think this is, to me, it seems like it's a playoff team. I mean,
they're pretty close. Don't want to give too many spoilers. Real quick, I'm going to go back to the Cardinals real quickly because Gabe has come back with me. I knew that he would. DraftKings, the Cardinals are favored right now in 5 of their 17 games this year. However, that being said, 3 of them are by 1. They're a 1-point favorite over the Chargers. I think that's ridiculous. They're a 1-point favorite at home against the Seahawks. That's ridiculous. Go bet it now. And they're a 1-point favorite at Carolina. They're only more than a 1-point favorite. They're 2.5-point favorite against the Commanders. And as Larry predicted, they're a 3.5-point favorite against the New England Patriots. All right, let's move on to the team that everyone's picking. Everyone and their grandma thinks has a good chance to go to the Super Bowl again. I'm interested to get your thoughts on the San Francisco 49ers. Again, I know sometimes we put too much stock into ratings, but PFF rankings rated their running backs number 1. Okay, that's fine. Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell, and your fullback is Kyle Juszczyk. But I don't agree at all that they have the number 1 receiving core. We don't even know what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel was fine, but he can't stay healthy. And Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, Chris. I got to be honest, and I know George Kittle's probably considered part of the receiving group, but there's something. I got a weird feeling about this team this year. I'm not saying they're not going to win the division, but I'm not sure they're as good as everyone thinks they are. Tell me I'm wrong.
I don't think Brandon Ayuk is as good as maybe he's being portrayed. Like I feel like a lot of this, and here's what's funny, because so many people discount Brock Purdy. Guess what? Some of these guys are really good because Brock Purdy's actually really good.
That's true. There's a reason why they were 4th in passing last year. They weren't just 3rd because of McCaffrey. The 2nd overall offense. A lot of it has to do, obviously, with Brock Purdy.
No question about it. And look, I think one of the things that you have to look at offensive-wise, we still got a very unhappy Trent Williams who's been nowhere to be found.
Right.
We talk about Ayuk, but Trent Williams is like, now it's easier to come in and say, all right, I'm going to play left tackle, and if he's Trent Williams, he's fine and all, but he's right. They've had quite a bit of contract drama with the Ayuk thing, and look, if you're the 49ers,
those things linger too. Those things linger into seasons sometimes.
Well, here's what's funny. I know it's fantasy football draft season time. It's even just someone like, you talking contracts, you talk about CeeDee Lamb. I mean, people are probably pondering taking him 2 in fantasy drafts.
Yep.
And he hasn't touched the field. Like, so can you rely on that? It's interesting. So maybe you're overthinking it and you'll be fine, and come out and be explosive. But still, I think that making the 49ers like a far gone conclusion that they're going to make the Super Bowl this year, I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know if I would do that. I don't know if I would make that conclusion quite as strongly maybe as I would have thought maybe last year. But still,
that's why I had him.
There's
that's why I was
there's a bit of a
question
there.
Yeah, so obviously I thought the same thing last year. Even though I picked him to win the division, I had him at 10-7. I didn't have as much faith in him, but I don't know. Maybe I feel differently. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate because I don't think their offenses. I'm just worried about Christian McCaffrey. Here's a stat I read this morning. I don't remember where I read this. It might have been on X or something, but the last time Christian McCaffrey had over 400 touches in a season, that he spent the next major parts of the next 2 years injured. And he's 28 now, and he had 417 touches last year. I thought we kind of saw him wear down maybe a little towards the end of the season and into the playoffs. I am concerned that he had as many touches as he had last year. And, people hate the words injury prone, but I mean, he went through an entire season without a significant injury last year. He's the number, you would talk about fantasy football, he's the obvious number one choice in fantasy football, and he's on my team as a keeper. And I'm scared to death that he's going to get injured in game 2.
Well, I mean, that there's a viable concern there. I mean, he's missed time multiple times. So I get it. And but look, the 49ers actually, I'm not saying Elijah Mitchell is in the same ballpark, but he played well when he had to be a primary back for a little while. So if McCaffrey's hurt for a limited time, you could certainly make do with what you got there. But look, he's to me.
I mean, Elijah Mitchell's really good, and I have no problem with him. And they show they have depth potentially. Breida's on there as well. Maybe he can fill in if he has to. But still, I mean, you lose a Christian McCaffrey. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying the odds are that he's not going to play 17 games.
Sure. And it's the nature of the position too. But yeah, I mean, you're lucky if he makes it through the entire season unscathed, and he doesn't miss some
really
time.
Lucky.
Yeah, but look, I'll shift over a little bit to their defense.
Yeah, please. I was about to.
The fact that they didn't kind of sit on their hands. I mean, they lost Chase Young. They went and got Leonard Floyd. I think Leonard Floyd is going to be a really good acquisition there. Certainly, again, gives you a viable edge pass rush with Hargrave. And look, Malik Collins up front, like their front four, that is pretty
ranked second by PFF,
strong.
And I agree with that.
That is strong. And then you got you've got
but Fred Warner's great, but you don't know how long Dre Greenlaw is going to be out with his injury.
It's
I mean,
true.
He's on the pup right now.
Right.
You want a safety, one of their safeties is also on the pup list. So I don't know.
Longo, who's one of the better safeties in the NFL, like I get that too, but still, I like their front four, man. They didn't miss a beat, and
I agree.
That is a huge plus for them. You expect them to be good offensively, but man, if they can really affect the quarterback, which those four guys can, that is a strong. And part of the byproduct there is they have a young, cheap quarterback, so they can keep this thing going until they got to pay Purdy, and then some of these pieces are going to start to fall off.
We'll see what happens. Numbers on the screen. Their offense was second overall last year. I think that maybe slips a little bit, but again, who cares if you go from second to sixth? Meanwhile, their defense was eighth, and I think they're going to be better on defense this year. So I am concerned about the two injuries that we talked about, especially Dre Greenlaw, which could last quite a while, to be honest. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I think their defense is probably better than it was last year, and it was eighth. Their over-under win total at DraftKings is 11.5. I don't think that's a number I'd want to bet either way. They're almost 2-1 to win the division, and their odds to win the Super Bowl at plus 600. In my opinion, again, we're going to get to our predictions in a minute, but I don't think you can touch any of those numbers. I don't think any of those numbers are bettable. You look at their schedule real quick. They opened kind of with a tough one against the Jets. You can say it's tough or not tough on Monday Night Football. And then at the Vikings, at the Rams, Patriots, Cardinals, at Seahawks. So before they get to Chiefs and Cowboys for their bye week, man, they got a road to where they could certainly potentially be 6-0 going into that Chiefs game.
That definitely lines up pretty well for them to get off to a hot start. And, you get to the Chiefs game and then you look at Cowboys. Like, it's not like at Bucks. That doesn't.
No, they play the Chiefs at home.
Right. And so, I mean, they just about beat them last year. And yet all eyes are going to be on that game, rightfully so. I will certainly be watching that game. But, yeah, it's, even though they've got two solid teams in their division, I mean, their schedule – it lines up
not bad.
pretty
really
well for a team that even if they played good teams, they could probably win 11, 12 games. And so they don't play. Not every week is a kind of a world beater. So that's very fortunate for them.
Yeah, and they open up again. 5 of their first 8 games before their bye week are at home. And so then when they go on the road, if you're listening to the pod again, you can't see the schedule on the left-hand side of the screen. At Bucks, home for the Seahawks, at Packers, at Bills. Is that tough? We don't know. But then they're home for the Bears and Rams. Then they finish with at Dolphins, Lions, and finish the season at Cardinals. Interesting schedule that definitely favors the San Francisco team. We wrap up the NFC West by looking at Seattle Seabags. 9-8 last year. They just missed the playoffs. They were third in the NFC West. But I think if you look at these numbers on the right-hand side of the screen, Larry, they were 21st in offense and 30th in defense. How in the hell did this team win 9 games?
It's really that roller coaster ride that is Geno Smith. I mean, he can be amazing one week, and then you're like, oh my gosh! But he's
Geno Smith.
Yeah, he's been more amazing than not. So that's a plus. And so those numbers, man, that is definitely an oddity. It's funny. I've got a buddy who lives in Washington State, and he is hoping that Sam Howell takes the job by midseason. Like they feel like Sam Howell can bring them to the promised land at some point, and that Geno Smith, I mean, he kind of is who he is, and is a placeholder at this point. But yeah, it's that those numbers. I didn't realize that.
Well, I don't even know how you have numbers that bad, because honestly, I think Kenneth Walker is a fantastic running back, and we talked about just a couple minutes ago about San Francisco having the quote unquote best receiver. I think this receiving core is better than that one. PFF ranks them 10th, and I know they were 14th in passing last year. I guess it's because of the quarterback, but I'd much rather have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, Najigba, and Noah Fant. I think that's you want to talk about a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch. That's pretty damn good.
I don't know if they're better than the 49ers, but I mean,
I'd rather have Metcalf and Lockett combined over Ayuk and Debo. That's just my opinion. I'm talking about an neutral field if you gave him the same quarterback. You got to give him the same quarterback.
Be really hit or miss. I mean,
I'm a huge Metcalf fan,
and he could be a bit temperamental. Like I feel
that's true.
Ayuk and Debo are a little more stable, and then you throw in Kittle, and I'm taking Kittle every day over Noah Fant. But still, I think it just it comes down to like if Geno Smith is the good Geno or the bad Geno, and he's been better, which is why they've been in the mix, surprisingly the last couple of years. But still, it's that's a team. When I think we were talking about kind of the Saints and who would you rather be? Would you rather be the Seahawks, or would you rather be the Saints?
I'd rather be the Saints.
I think you'd rather be the Saints because you're in a more winnable division. So yeah. I feel like Seattle, even though they've got some weapons you just mentioned, they're just kind of there.
I agree. What do you think about? I thought it was a weird coaching hire, Mike McDonald. I don't have anything against him. I really don't know a whole lot about him, but most people assumed that Dan Quinn was going to get that job. We talked about the Commanders last week, and there's lots of reasons why Dan Quinn may not be a great for anyone. I mean, he kind of faltered with the Falcons towards the end, and I think the Cowboys defense underachieved. So, but I was surprised that Dan Quinn didn't get this job, and I think that Pete Carroll was there a little too long, in my opinion. But what do you think about Mike McDonald?
Oh, I think he's certainly could be a good head coach. Like he deserved a job. His credentials are there. I mean, the Ravens
were, yeah.
They've always been good, and whether the pieces have changed, they've always been good. And so I feel like it was only a matter of time for him to be a head coach. So, again, it's like I said, Seattle. It's a place where you're walking into, and they're not a bad team. So, I think it's a good situation maybe for him, but still. I need to see where they go at quarterback after this year. Like,
yeah,
I say it all the time. I mean, to me, if you don't have quarterback play, you're a bust. Like,
I agree.
You're fighting an uphill battle.
And look, you can say whatever you want. You can hate Derek Carr. We're talking about Seahawks versus Saints, but you know what? I'd take Derek Carr over Geno Smith, and PFF ranks the Seahawks O-line 31st. They're ahead of the Saints, but
they're bad. That's a bad unit too.
Pretty darn bad. And they got their right tackle is on the PUP list too, so that they've got their own issues. Their defense, again, you bring in a Mike McDonald, you expect the defense to be certainly going to be better than 30th. One would think. In their defensive line, all their rankings are either 17th or better, and so. They've got some interesting, along the front line. Leonard Williams, he's 30 years old, but it's on a 3-year, $64.5 million deal. That'll be interesting. And that linebacker core, I think, is okay.
Now they get Nwosu back. He's a viable pass rusher.
Yeah.
I mean, their defense would have been better if he was. I know he missed a lot of time last year. So like the fact he can rush the passer, like so that's a good solid pickup. You look at Reek Woolen and Devon Witherspoon. I mean, that could be a stud young corner group.
Big time.
That's only that could be together for a few years and really be tough to go against. So like that's the thing. Like I feel like Mike McDonald can have a good sense of that defense and will improve those numbers. Like I think that's a good thing. So and if that's the case, this can be a viable team. But you mentioned who would you rather have, Geno Smith or Derek Carr? I mean, they're kind of are lurking around the same. So, maybe one plays bigger and the defense plays well, and maybe Seattle can have a better shot than maybe you and me might anticipate.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll give our predictions in just a minute. Lastly, for those listening to the pod, can't see the schedule or the odds, their over-under win total is 8. The division title odds 7-1. Don't waste your time. Conference title 28-1. Really don't waste your time. Super Bowl 65-1. You look at their schedule. Look, it starts off good enough for them. Maybe they can get some momentum. I don't know. I think they're better than the Broncos. They're certainly better than the Patriots. Then they get Dolphins, Lions. They can beat the Giants. It's 49ers, Falcons, Bills, Rams. That's an interesting stretch before their bye week. And then they come back and go to San Francisco right after the bye week, which is not good. And Cardinals, Jets, Cardinals, Packers, Vikings, Bears, Rams. It's not a super tough schedule. I'd say it's a middle of the road kind of schedule, but I don't know. I don't love this team. So
I get that. I don't love them either. I mean, again, I feel like they're in a really similar boat as the Saints, except the Saints at least have a better defense, but they're in a similar.
Saints definitely have a better defense.
Yeah. But the Saints are in a similar boat as them, where it's just kind of like
they're very, very similar to one another, except the Seahawks do have a new coach who is also a defensive-minded coach, and they got a team whose fan base probably wants a new quarterback. But there you go. So
Sam
maybe
Howell,
they are a whole lot alike. All right, before we get to our predictions, let me tell you a bit more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family or privately owned business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, after their complimentary evaluation of your company, if you decide to proceed, our native New Orleanian experts, Nick Braden, Ron Himmelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. And they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Unlike others, there are no contract disputes, and they play through their injuries. No one questions their head coach, and they always finish with a winning record. Let Nick and Ron help you go out on top. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, none with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed, ready to serve you. So get in touch with Evangeline Securities about what's really important the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. It is prediction time, where Larry has no idea what he predicted.
I have some semblance, but not a real good. I don't know. Like if you told me, hey, what are your records? I have no idea. I have no idea what I said.
14-3 for them San Francisco 49ers.
I think part of it is that schedule. It's like,
yeah, you know what? And honestly, if you listen to what I said, and again, for those who aren't listening, who can't see what our predictions are, you're listening after the fact. I've got San Francisco, LA, Seattle, Cardinals. Larry's got the same thing, except he flip-flopped Seattle and the Rams. Now, the reason why I gave San Francisco, I don't think they're going to be as good as last year, but I still give them the same record, is because of that schedule, as Larry mentioned real quick, and I'll throw that up on the screen, and you look at it. I just think this early part of the schedule sets up for them. I'm not saying they're going to start in 6-0, but they got a real chance to, 5-1 maybe at worst. And if they beat either the Chiefs and or Cowboys and go into the bye week at either 7-1 or 6-2, then it's really set up for them. I think they have a nice strong run going towards the end of the season. So it's hard to not pick them to win at least 12 games, Larry.
That's why I went 14, man. I feel like this is even, like I said, even if the schedule was tougher, I mean, I would predict them to win, say, 12 games. I mean, they're legit. I mean, there's no question they're legit. So, and my Seahawks Rams pick, I mean, I could see that maybe being flip-flopped, but I feel like the Rams, I mean, like I said, Aaron Donald's a huge void.
I agree.
I got to see if Matt Stafford can stay healthy the whole year and be that same kind of quarterback.
But it's kind of like McVay, and McVay I trust as well, though.
Well, he's earned it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's certainly, like, he made that. They were a better team last year than I thought they would be. So, but I mean, it's, at some point Stafford's going to go away and you're going to need a new quarterback. Yeah. So, I mean, how long can you keep this going? I mean, that's that.
Good question.
They've gotten to a Super Bowl with a Jared Goff who was just starting to get pretty good,
and Matt Stafford won the Super Bowl.
So you can look, it's there. But also the 49ers have gotten to Super Bowls with Jimmy Garoppolo and now Brock Purdy.
That's true.
So that's
the biggest difference. Again, for people who can't see it, the biggest difference that between Larry, not just that our picks are flip flop. He's got the Seahawks at 9-8, Rams at 8-9. I've got the Rams at 11-6 and the Seahawks at 6-11. I don't have any confidence in Seattle. I know I didn't last year, and they surprised me. The Rams, again, this is part because of their schedule as well. But again, McVay, I trust. It would not surprise me at all. And so my surprise, if there is one, and I didn't have the cojones to pick it, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Rams won this division. It really wouldn't. So
I'm not going that far.
Obviously,
it would surprise me. There would have to be something pretty bad to happen in San Francisco for that to happen. I would be surprised.
We both think the Cardinals stink. By the way, we both.
I was nice with their record.
Yeah, I might have been too, because 5-12. Again, that defense is so bad. I know Kyler Murray is wonderful, and I wish he played for a good team. But other than James Conner, I don't have any faith. I don't really love Marvin Harrison Jr., to be honest. I could be wrong, but again,
I don't have anything against him. But I mean, look, it's just the state of where you're playing. Same thing with like Malik Neighbors. I mean, I think he could be great, but
he plays for the Giants.
He plays for the Giants. I mean,
Danny Dimes is looking really bad.
That's. I remember when they extended him, and I said, "Oh my gosh, what have they
Danny
done?"
Dimes, man, throwing pick sixes in the preseason. Jeez, poor Brian Dable.
Like I said, I could see them as being the worst team in the NFL. I could see Arizona. I could see New England. It's the same cast of characters from last year. It could be.
There's a couple I add to it. I put the Titans.
Carolina might still be.
We got 2 more divisions left, so no, I think. Well, we'll see. I think Carolina's going to be a little bit better. Not again. We're giving too many spoilers. We got 2 divisions left. We got the North next Friday, a week from Friday, on whatever day that is, August the 30th, day after my birthday. By the way, make sure you bring me a virtual present. August 30th, and then we will wrap.
I'll bring you a dime and a piece of gum, like you suggested earlier.
Okay, and then. I've told this to Larry before. He didn't remember, and I'm going to remind him, and he's going to be like, what? But the week before the regular season starts, we're going to do the NFC South on Wednesday, the 4th, I think. And then we're going to do our wrap-up on the 6th. So we're going to have you back-to-back. We're going to do our final predictions, like our playoff predict.
That sort of rings a bell, sure.
All right. So I know you don't care. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us on this Wednesday. You got a big tennis tournament this weekend, huh?
This is true. In Baton Rouge.
I expect to see a trophy.
You don't even if you win it all, you don't win a trophy. You get to stand and hold a banner, and hey, we won.
Well, then send me a picture. If you win, send me the picture, and we'll brag about it here on Dattitude.
Oh, if we win, there's no doubt it'll be on Facebook. There's no doubt. I mean, that's a big deal. Come on, state champs. Let's see if we can do it.
All right. Well, even though Larry's getting a little bit long in the tooth, it's
a 40 and over league, so I'm young.
As I reach my birthday weekend, by the way, and I'm a lot older than Larry, but
you are.
It is what it is. All right. I want to thank, obviously, Larry, who's there to my right on the screen. Gabe Henderson behind the scenes. Again, 50-50 on whether we will have a show on Friday because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to be here or not. My wife's got something, procedure going on. We will see. We will let you know ahead of time. And then next week, weird schedule. We're going to have a show on Monday to wrap up whatever the Saints do against the Titans. I will be in the Dome on Sunday. We'll have our first Pick'em show on Thursday with Uncle Big Nick's back, Tom Casale, bet.nola.com editor. Gabe will have his pick. And then on Friday, Larry will be back for the NFC North, which is an interesting division. I got a feeling we're going to be a little bit different on the NFC North. I don't know.
Maybe, but I don't want to give away my playoff predictions.
Yeah, I've got some surprises in the NFC North, and I've got a friend of mine who
that's an interesting division to map out because it's you never know.
You never know. People will tell me I'm nuts.
Play well. I don't know.
Maybe they do.
Yeah.
Maybe the Vikings win with Sam Darnold.
And Sam Darnold, we trust. Let's go.
I'm not going that far. All right, we'll see how it goes. So there's our upcoming schedule. Maybe we'll see you Friday. If not, we'll definitely see you on Monday. We will have to say a reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. You also get all the access on YouTube to our shorts there and on TikTok. Click the little bell to receive notifications. And then our podcast, Apple, Spotify, many more. You can always find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. Check Gabe out on bet.nola.com. Check Larry out, The Athletic. What are you previewing right now, by the way? What are you working on?
I am still, I don't know when I'm actually going to publish it, but still taking a look at offensive lines. I think
that's what I figured.
I might wait until we're close enough to cuts. I might wait till we have sufficient depth charts, but yeah, I'm looking into that. And we've got a whole bunch of other stuff coming, league-wide stuff that's coming up. So it's like we're in the thick of it now. So it's
every day I click on The Athletic. It's like, wait a minute, this whole page, I never saw any of this stuff. It's like
it's a lot.
It is a lot. So check Larry out at The Athletic and everyone else of The Athletic. Obviously, our own Saints guys at NOLA.com/Saints. Man, it is that time of the year, and we're only 2.5 weeks from the start of the regular season. Thank you for taking the ride. We will see you either Friday or on Monday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.